Let's begin, though, with the state of this country's vaccine rollout. The government says it's in talks every day with coronavirus vaccine suppliers to negotiate delivery dates. But it's still unclear when exactly those vaccines will arrive in Canada. Anita Anand is the Minister of Public Services and Procurement. She joins us now. Hi, Minister. Good to have you back on the show, as always.
Hi, Vashi. Great to be here.
Earlier today, I heard you say that the approval, and this is a quote, the approval from Health Canada is the kick-in date for delivery of vaccines. So how soon after that approval do you expect a vaccine, any vaccine, to arrive here in Canada?
Thanks so much, Vashi, and it's great to be here. I just wanted to mention that, yes, that is the concerning date. We need to make sure that we allow the regulators to do their job and that we follow the science. And once the approval is obtained, then the deliveries should occur shortly thereafter. We are negotiating right now with our suppliers to make sure that that happens as soon as possible.
So just to clarify, when you say you use the word should occur, does that mean because it hasn't really fully been worked out? Like you said, you're negotiating, so we don't have a specific determination, let's say, from those companies about how soon after the regulator approves their candidate, should that happen, that they would send their vaccine to Canada?
Let me take you back, Vashi, to the middle of the summer when we concluded our agreements with many of the suppliers. And we then knew at that time in the negotiations that the date of regulatory approval was not certain, that the date of discovery of a vaccine was not certain. And so we knew that we would be in negotiations about precise delivery dates. And that is where we are right now. We are negotiating those precise delivery dates right now. We understood on all sides of the table that there would be certain dates that we didn't know at the current time. And that's what we are engaged in every single day, myself included, to make sure that when Health Canada approval occurs, the vaccine can roll out as soon as possible. In that vein, Vashi, we are putting in place the distribution mechanisms needed to roll out a vaccine. The cold and ultra cold storage, for example, in the purchase of refrigerators has occurred. We've procured 126 fridges, to be precise, that can store, with existing federal capacity, 33.5 million doses of vaccines. In addition, PSPC is putting in place an end-to-end logistics provider. We ran a competition and we should be issuing contracts this week for the end-to-end system. All that to say that we are putting all of the pieces of the puzzle in place now, including having discussions with the provinces and territories who will be responsible for rolling out the vaccines in their respective jurisdictions, so that when a vaccine is approved, we can get it into this country and distribute it to Canadians.
I understand all of that, and I have questions specifically about the distribution and, for example, the number of freezers that you talked about there. But I am asking also just in more general terms about a timeline. I think, for example, in the United States, they've said once the FDA approves something, and I understand that this is uncertain, but once it is approved, that within 48 hours, the first vaccine doses will be able to be distributed in the United States. You're saying that there is no precise date yet, correct? How is Minister LeBlanc then saying that 6 million doses are coming as early as January?
I have been consistent with what I've been saying, and that is consistent with others in our government, including with Minister LeBlanc, that we are looking at the first quarter of 2021 as the time frame, as the window. That's what we should be focused on. The fact that there is a window, and we will be working within that window for the delivery of vaccines, and the deliveries are going to occur over the weeks and months within that time frame in increments, potentially, so that we can make sure that there are vaccines in place for all Canadians. At the current time, the vaccine distributors themselves are determining their global allocations for various countries. And so once that process occurs, then we get a greater understanding of the deliveries that will be rolling out in our own country.
Do you have any guarantees about the time frame that you referenced? So say it's the first quarter. Is it that you're negotiating a precise date within that quarter, or do you have guarantees that there will be something delivered in the first quarter?
We have in our contract, the delivery schedule says the first quarter of 2021. That's why I'm using that time frame with you, Vashi. And now we are negotiating for more precise delivery dates pending Health Canada approval. And so it's for that reason that we're putting the logistics systems in place so that there is no time lost between approval and then distribution to the provinces and territories.
About those logistics, you mentioned 126 freezers. And just to make sure the audience is clear, the reason the freezers are so important, it's ultra cold freezers as well as cold freezers, because two of the candidates, one needs ultra cold freezing and one needs just kind of almost, I'm using layman's terms, but a regular freezer. Of the 126, you said, just one second, you said the government's received 38 and 92 are on the way. When will those 92 arrive?
Within weeks, Vashi. We are very close to concluding the rest of those deliveries, and we just need to make sure that they're all in place. You have to remember that we also have existing federal cold storage capacity, so that these freezers are in addition to that capacity. We're also procuring dry ice, Vashi, so that in the transportation of the vaccines, we can ensure that the logistics requirements are met. And as I said, that logistics provider that we are contracting with will have carriage over the end-to-end logistics that we are putting in place. So we do have a plan, Vashi. We certainly have a plan. That plan consists of regulatory approval, then distribution, and then administration. And I want to be clear that our government has been working for months on this plan. We have now the expertise of General Fortin, who's going to be working with the Public Health Agency of Canada and our government to ensure an even more efficient rollout of the vaccines across this country.
Can you understand why, though, there are, and I know that your government has taken issue with, let's say, the way in which some of the questions are posed by opposition critics, but can you understand why those questions exist? You mentioned, for example, just one example, General Fortin. Your government announced last week that you were tasking him with this. The United States back in May essentially assigned a former military officer to the same thing. When it comes to the health regulator, for example, we know in the United States they're meeting on December 10th to examine one candidate and the week after to examine another. All we hear about Health Canada is there's the right people involved, but it's rolling vaccination approvals. They're looking at the data. There is almost a shortage of specifics in comparison to other jurisdictions. Do you understand why those questions are then being posed to your government?
I do understand, and I just want to say that, like everybody across this country, I am looking as a Canadian to the point at which we will have usable vaccines in this country. At the same time, we are trying to be as transparent as possible. For example, last Thursday, we ensured that officials had a technical briefing with journalists so that there could be more information. We are going to continue with this process to make sure that there's technical briefings available, as well as myself as minister appearing at committee, providing briefings in pressers, being in the House of Commons. These are all aims at being more and more transparent with the information as we are able to. You'll recall back in the spring, Vashi, when there was a shortage of PPE, we said to Canadians that this is an uncertain environment and we are going to provide as much information as possible while we procure life-saving equipment for this country. Since that time, we have procured 2 billion items of PPE. At the same time, we have provided disclosure regarding $6 billion of our contracts on our website. So the information will be forthcoming as we move out of this uncertain time where we are seeking to finalize our vaccine deliveries. We need to make sure this is pulled off very well and very efficiently, Vashi, and we need to make sure that Canadians have access to a vaccine. That's my main priority as minister.
Just quickly, Minister, final question. When you are able to negotiate and land on a final delivery date, will that immediately be made public?
We are working very hard with our suppliers to make sure that we have delivery dates in place. Of course, this is across 7 suppliers and many, many shipments of vaccines. So we will make as much information public as possible as we go along. That's why I'm speaking with you, Vashi. That's why I appear at committee. That's why I stand up in the House of Commons, because I know that Canadians need this information.
Respectfully, Minister, though that didn't address the specific nature of the question, will you be making public the specific delivery dates once they are agreed to?
Vashi, these deliveries are going to be made with the provinces who are going to roll out the vaccines themselves. And so I'm sure many Canadians will know when that's going to occur once these dates are finalized.
Will you yourself, though, be making them public, or is it up to the provinces to do that?
Well, my job, Vashi, that I work on every single day is to make sure that we get vaccines into this country for Canadians. And I'm going to continue to do that. I work closely with the Minister of Health and the Public Health Agency of Canada, who has the responsibility to make sure that the provinces and territories are able to roll out vaccines. And I will work with them to make sure that the public is well aware of that plan.
All right, Minister, I'll leave it there. Thank you for your time, as always.
Thank you so much, Vashi. Take care.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.